various different. So something happened here. Okay. So this is just a number that we use for the committees in ISO. We have been given the task to try to standardize the minimization of food loss and waste worldwide. So the first objective for us is to develop a certifiable management system standard with the purpose of minimization of food loss and waste. Now, this presentation will not talk about the gaps, the challenges, the details, the technicalities of food loss and waste, but give you all, or at least try to give you all, an idea of a system that actually has the methods and the power to bring international, national, regional, or local initiatives up to a bigger scale and give it a global impact. Now, Marianne is part of this project, and she have invited me to share with you the framework and the scope of the project. I am not a food loss and waste expert. I am an expert in ISO processes, and I also hold another secretariat in ISO, which has to do with food safety. So we are very well aware that this is very ambitious, and also the fact that Western countries might prepare themselves to lower their ambitions, because we have to find consensus among all countries and make that a starting point for global improvement. Before I start, I would like to highlight that international standards are developed by those willing to be present and willing to work. So this is not developed by me, this is developed by our stakeholders. So Danish Standards have managed to obtain the secretariat of this committee, and this is brand new. For those of you not familiar with ISO, it is the International Organization for Standardization, and it holds over 160 member countries. This is a system that's already functioning in various fields. The way it works is that all member countries have a national standardization body. In Denmark, it's Danish Standards. In UK, it's the BSI, and in Germany, it's DIN, and etc. So all these countries has a body that deals with standardization in the interest of the stakeholders of that particular country. So interested stakeholders are involved through their national mirror committees in their standardization bodies, where they work on national consensus within a relevant field. In this case, it's food loss and waste. So this is the overall structure in ISO, where you see all the technical committees. There is over 340 in total. So this is just a small scale drawing. And if you kind of look at it closer, you can see that ISO TC34 has a French secretariat. This deals with food products. And then underneath that, you can see what we call SC17. That would be food safety. That is located here in Denmark. And the new one, SC20, which is Food Loss and Waste Committee. Now, how do you measure and monitor food loss and waste? That was the header for this webinar. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, and the committee doesn't know yet. But this we tend to find out, and we have a lot of experience from other fields, for example, food safety, and we have the system that can actually take the world together and find consensus in this field as well. Now, the TC34 is kind of the mother committee, and beneath that we have the subcommittee for food loss and waste. And if you see on your right-hand side the scope of SC20, which is the standardization of food loss and waste, providing a framework for food organizations throughout the food chain to work actively and effectively with measuring and reduction of food loss and waste. This is how all ISO committees are basically structured. So beneath the subcommittees, you find all the working group where the standards are actually written. in the working groups, we have experts. And in this particular one, we have already activated a work item in what we call Working Group 1, where we are developing a management system standard with the, with the same structure as ISO 9001, ISO 14001, ISO 22001, which are the big management system standards within ISO. I will come back to the work program later. So about the participation, you see here in blue, you see the P members. These are the members already involved in the committee, and they have the right to vote on the drafts. The other members, the ones in orange, are the O members. They just follow the work, but they are not actively participating. And I've put a little link in the presentation. Marianne will send it to you all afterwards. You can go to the ISO webpage and discover which countries are actually participating or observing member countries. Now, this is our lovely chair of the new committee, a very experienced lady from World Resources Institute. I think most of you, or at least some of you, might know Liz Goodwin, and she's the one actually leading this committee and helping us to push things forward and to engage all the stakeholders relevant to this work. So in all ISO committees, there is a work program, and this work program is not decided by ISO, it is decided by the stakeholders on board. For us, we have activated the first work item, which will be a certifiable management system standard with the purpose of reducing food loss and waste. This will be based on what we call the ISO harmonized structure, which is the exact same structure as is in ISO 9001 or ISO 22000. That means that the big organization can have this system integrated in their existing system and implement it quite easily. Now, for the future, we have discussed also developing a guide on how to implement management system standards and with best practice tools. The third thing we've been talking about, and this is not activated yet, is to have a standard for measuring and monitoring food loss and waste. These deliverables should probably be split into sector-divided groups. Like Ainhoa and Marianne says, there are very big difference between primary production and retail and so forth. So we might divide these documents into different parts to fit the data already available and also to fit the challenges in the various sectors. So this is the timeline for, like, what we say a normal ISO standard. ISO produces international standards. They produces technical specification or technical reports. There is technical details between the three deliverables, but basically this is the timeline for development of an ISO standard. It takes approximately 3 years. And if we go to the next slide, you can see that it's exactly the one as the previous, but in front of it, it has the justification study. The justification study is only needed for management system standard, not for other deliverables. So this is the phase where we are actually right now. We are waiting for the approval from ISO of the justification study so that we can actually start drafting this management system standard. The difference between the normal standards and the management system standards is only the justification study. And this might sometimes be a little bit time consuming, but if we are going to develop all other deliverables, we will not have to do a justification study. So So far, we have been having, I think it's 2 or 3 international meetings, and we have agreed, or at least found consensus so far, that we are not reinventing the wheel, which means we are not building something that have never been built before. We're not starting from scratch. We have made a study group where experts bring relevant documents to the table. We've put them in a library, and we will build these documents on existing documents that's already developed and that we know already works out there. There are a lot of definitions, protocols, things that we can actually use. And we will, of course, look into everything brought to the table. So we will also have special attentions to the small, medium-sized enterprises, and we will try to keep it as simple and flexible as possible, because most of these organizations that need this actually are not that developed. So we will keep it as simple as we possibly can. So, and the learnings so far is that building consensus among so many countries takes time. And the level that we have here in the West are not exactly necessarily the level that is all over the world. So we might have to lower our expectations a little bit. Food loss and waste experts are very passionate. And I think that all experts say that about themselves, but I've been working with experts within various fields, and this is really people that that are very passionate about their field and really works hard to gain solutions. Now, standardization is a discipline, is difficult, and we have to unite the standardization area with the what the experts bring to the table on food loss and waste. And lastly, standards are developed by the stakeholders, developed by those who want to join this work. And I will come back to later how you can join if you are interested. Mariana told me to give you a little insight in what certification actually is, because it is not a very simple process. Certification is a physical evidence that an enterprise or organization conforms to the requirements of a standard. Now, who can decide that? It's only third party who can decide it. We talk about different kinds of certification. We talk about first-party certification, also known as self-checking. In food businesses, known as egenkontrol in Denmark, where you check your own procedures. Secondly, we have the second-party certification. This can be done practically by anyone, but it's mostly performed by a customer to a supplier or organization, where checks are carried out on a specific procedure or on a specific product. Now, last, there is the third-party certification, and this is actually what defines the certification as is. Third-party is when an independent third party, typically an accreditation certification body, checks an organization's conformity to a given standard and issues a certificate if the requirements are met. Now, for some organizations, these certificates serves as a license to trade. For others, it gives access to projects or customers. But the value of certification varies a lot from sector to sector. Now, who's involved in the certification process? And it's quite some bodies, and that also what makes the certification body independent and competent to submit certificates. The accreditation body is the body that approves the certification body and its auditors by a general body. This is called DANAG in Denmark. And these accreditation bodies are in most countries. In some countries, it's called something else, but in most countries, there is an accreditation body. Now, the certification body is the enterprise engaged in certifying other enterprises according to various standards and issuing certificates on this account. Then there is the auditor. This is the person who has knowledge of a specific industry through education, training, and experience, and who can document this knowledge. This person is continuously monitored and further educated and trained. And last and very important, there is the ISO CASCO committee. This is the Conformity Assessment Committee in ISO. And this committee develops competency-based standards containing requirements for the certification bodies and which are used by the accreditation body in their approval of the CBs. So there are lots of bodies involved in a certification process. So to view this in context for third-party certification, you have the accreditation body who actually approves the certification body, and other inspection bodies. This can be laboratories, for example. The certification body performs the audit and submits the certificate. Now, CASCO, the conformity assessment in ISO, develops the competency-based documents with requirements for the accreditation body and the certification body to fulfill. And the technical committee, like the one we have now for food loss and waste, we develop standards for the enterprises to fulfill. So how do you get engaged into this work? You need to contact your national standardization body in Denmark. That would be me here at Danish Standards. And we will help you to get into the work, provide you access to documents and meetings and etc. And please feel free if you would like to contact me if you have any other questions. Let's see if I have everything. You also have the possibility to participate as a liaison, but this is only for international organization with no national affiliation. So here is examples of some of our engaged stakeholders of SC20, food loss and waste, so far. The list keeps growing. On your left-hand side, we have the Danish stakeholders, and on the right-hand side, we have some of the international stakeholders. So thank you a lot for your attention. You can contact us if you wish, or I will stay for the session at the end if you have any question whatsoever.